Good morning. This is Wealth Principle 24. We've been doing the 52 weeks to wealth for now 24 months. And throughout the last 24 months, we've discussed one principle per week. These are wealth principles. They're designed to make you a millionaire. These are not little, change my life on a small scale principles. There's 52 for a reason. And if you just tackle one principle per week in your business, you will see massive success, assuming you tackle all 52 throughout the year. It doesn't matter which order you collect them in. It doesn't matter which order you listen to them in. The key is to do all 52, one per week. Do not do more in 1 week than one, because that's the maximum amount that it takes to spend on your business to actually make meaningful changes in your business, in your life, to improve and get to the next level. So
said,
one lesson per week.
Excuse me, sorry, you said one per month.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, well, it's Terry, but yeah.
One per week, one lesson per week. Do not do more lessons in a week than you are capable of doing, which is one at a time. This is not a, hey, go through the blog post on walteramarillo.com/blog and then do every single one of those in a week. That would be stressful and it would not work. So as we understand, the process is there for a reason. Wealth Principle 24, you will fail. Do not give up on the process. Success is a system. It's a process. It's a series of steps. I like definitions. The definition of a system is a series of steps that get you to a certain goal. It's an organization of ideas or thoughts or people that moves towards a specific goal, that have a purpose. And I love the word purpose, because purpose can be what you're here for. It's your dharma, it's yourself, it's who you are. The other word that's valuable is process. And process is similar to a system, but a process is a sequential order. It's something that goes in an order to create an end result. And so by following a process, which includes systems, you can scale yourself beyond what you're capable of doing. There are systems out there right now that you're missing in your business. If you just took one system, and I guarantee you, if you thought about it and focus on it now, if you think about it, there's one system in your business that's missing that would take your business to the next level. Does that make sense? In the last 24 weeks, we've adjusted and we've discussed many systems. We've discussed many processes. And some of those processes and systems may have not worked out on the first try. Fair to say? Have you attempted a few of these processes and systems and not seen the results you were looking for? That's okay. You will fail. Principle 24. You will fail. Do not give up on the process. Get excited about the failures. There's nothing more exciting about a failure, because a failure implies that you've identified something that doesn't work. You've identified something that, and don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, because it's possible that something in that attempt was good. And so as you're repositioning yourself, readjusting, go back and calibrate with somebody who's already created this process. To create a good process, to prevent failure, which, by the way, I'm okay with failure, which to prevent failure, to go back and talk to somebody who's already done it before. Describe what you've done after you've, of course, got their buy-in, why they're interested in helping you. And then describe what you did, the process you followed, the goal you were looking for, and see why it didn't work. I guarantee you the right people have the answer like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So failure is an opportunity to talk to somebody smarter than you. You get to use the word, I made a big mistake. And listen to this, and imagine me imploring you for help. I'm imploring you for help right now. Hey, I made a big mistake. Feel that feeling that you're feeling right now. And I'm looking to improve some way. And I know that you have the knowledge to do that. I know that your experience is very specific to the mistake that I made, and you have the knowledge to do that. And I know that your time is very busy. You're very, very busy, and I value your time. And I want to make this very short. Do you have a minute just to listen to the problem? And if you don't have an answer or you don't have time for it, that's okay. Do you mind if I just want to tell you what I did, and in the hopes that maybe you have the solution? Would you help me?
Of course.
Of course. I don't know a human being on the planet that could say no to that sentence. Does that make sense? Don't worry, this was recorded, so you can at any point go back and watch the first 6 minutes and get that secret little sentence that will get you all the help you could ever desire. Now, failure is the only way that conversation can happen. Does that make sense? So you've got to fail. You've got to fail forward. You got to, I mean, just go out there and do things. And look, if you do everything right, 100%, everything goes right. You follow all 52 weeks. Everything goes right in your business. You end up a millionaire in a year instead of 3 years. You will be the exception. And we will ask how you did it. What was the insight that brought you there? What made you so special that you could somehow beat the odds? And in every single manner of new system you learned, you did it right the first time. We'll ask. You'll be the unicorn. That said, write this down. Every master was once a disaster.
Like it.
Every master was once a disaster, right, Chris?
That's a good one.
That's a great one.
If you saw me on stage, my first time in front of 60 or 70 people, you would be embarrassed. It was, my God, it was the most embarrassing moment of my life. I mean, not like as a child, I was on stage a lot, you know, in these plays, like at church and such. But as an adult male, I was, and I'm talking about a big fail, right? A big fail. Anybody heard of Toastmasters? Anybody been a part of Johnson & Johnson's Toastmasters? Johnson & Johnson runs a Toastmasters. The company I worked for had 2,000 employees in the building. And so the Toastmasters was quite large. And there were about 60 to 70 people in auditorium seats. Auditorium seats. My first time ever at a Toastmasters. Not planning to go and speak, I assure you. I was there as a guest to see what these clowns were doing. Because I wanted to be rich and successful, and I knew that rich and successful people were on stage, and I thought I could just bypass a few steps because you know, I thought that's how it worked in life. You just jump ahead, fake it till you make it. And so I decide I'm going to go to this Toastmasters thing, see what all these suckers are doing, and then I'm going to outdo all of them. I was quite arrogant. Anybody recognize that experience at some point in your life? Maybe felt like you were better or smarter than everybody, and you could just jump ahead. Mm. So I just come out of jumping jobs, you know, getting paid $5 more an hour, $3 more an hour, getting from $18 an hour to $30 an hour in a 2-year period just by jumping jobs. So I really did think I was smarter than everybody else. I thought I'd beat the system. Does that make sense? So going into this session, I sit in the absolute worst space to learn something, all the way in the back, all the way at the top, right? Because every level was a tier. And there was a lot of people, and there was no room for me up in the front where I wanted to sit. And so all the way back at the top, and I see these people stumbling over their words, stumbling, you know, supposed to be Toastmasters, and they're up here having a hard time talking. I just kind of came into it in the middle of it, again, arrogant, not showing up on time. And I sit there, I'm like, I could do this. Oh my God, this is so easy. Like, no big deal. All they're doing is asking you about a topic that you care about and are good at. And then you talk about something they're good at and something that's a real topic. And so I'm sitting there. I was like, if they ask me, I'm going down there. No big deal. And so they ask if any of the new members want to give it a try. And so I look across, all new members, hands down. I was like, throwing it up there. I'll do it. Bring me up. We're talking about failure. Remember, keep that in mind. So all of this arrogance does not equate to talent or skill at this point in my life. And so I walked down there, and imagine this. Every single step, and there were a lot of steps, I discovered a new place on my body that sweats. Every single step, I realized there are sweat glands there too. I didn't know that your head could sweat. I wasn't aware that that was a possibility. And shoulders, I mean, armpits were just done. Like step 1, step 2, step 3, all 24 steps down this corridor of all these faces watching me on the right side of me. All these faces, just wondering who this young kid. I remember I was 23 at the time. I was young, I no college, working for Johnson and Johnson because I had a friend who got me in, and I was working temp jobs. It was the only way I could get into a big company, by being a temp. And so all of these thoughts are starting to pound into my head. This, what do we call it? I'll think of it in a second. Ron, what is it we tell our coaches when they think that they don't know what they're talking about, but they actually do? Oh, imposter syndrome. So all this imposter syndrome starts feeding me, right? You know, in the moment beforehand, I was like, I'm the king. I know what I'm doing here. No big deal. I can talk. Been talking my whole life. Got this. And then as I feel the eyes, I realize I don't know what I'm talking about. I have no talent here. I have no skill. I have no ability. And as I get down to the bottom, I look up and the lights are blaring. Now, I've been on stage many times. I was in a band, and we used to tour Providence, Boston, Massachusetts, right? And New Bedford. And we played shows. The lights were on. So it was never a big deal because I had my bass in front of me and I had my bandmates on the side of me. And I was up there with a team, with a bunch of people I felt comfortable with. And they came for us. This was different. And so as I got up on stage and I started to have the conversation with the speaker, and she says, "What do you want to talk about?" I froze. And I said, "I'm not sure. What would you suggest?" Smart question. Actually, I'll give myself credit for that one question. That was the only thing so far I've done right. Aside from raising my hand and walking down the steps. By the way, always volunteer yourself for uncomfortable positions, because that failure leads to the biggest success in my life, which is training and teaching from stage. And it inspired me, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. And so she asked, "What do you want to speak about?" And I said, "Well, what do you suggest?" And she says, "Talk about something that you care about." And so my instant thought at the moment was my girlfriend at the time. It was just easy to talk about how we bought our first house at 22, and you know we'd been successful. And so I remember talking, words just flowing out of my mouth, not knowing what I was saying, not being able to make eye contact with anybody, looking down, looking up, knowing that if I make eye contact, I look more confident, and just couldn't pull my eyes towards a single person, incapable of making any kind of connection with the human beings in front of me, sweating, shaking, absolutely terrified, absolutely petrified. Couldn't believe I was up there. Found my breathing to be harder and harder. And before I knew it, I stopped talking. I looked over at the speaker and she said, "That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing and being so open and honest with us. Didn't he do a great job? Round of applause. Thank you, sir. You can go up to your seat now." And it took a little while for my body to realize that I was no longer in this prison that I'd created, and that I could walk my way back to the seat. And it was the most epic fail of my life. I mean, I've been divorced and stuff too. I've made some big mistakes, but in a short 5-minute period, from being the king to being literally the not king, right? Nobody. It was the biggest fail of my life. But what she said to me was, "Great job. It takes a lot of guts to come up here, especially for somebody new. And I think that you have the ability to do this. You just might want to practice a little bit." And then when she said, "Did he do a great job?" and everybody cheered, I felt like maybe that's true. And so the confidence started to creep back in. because I identified the mistakes I made. Later on, for weeks it was in my head. How do I get a topic worth talking about? How do I get in front of people and not have that experience? And I wasn't on stage again. I wasn't on stage again for another 7 years. 7 years, that situation terrified the shit out of me, scared the hell out of me, terrified me. And I stayed away from stage for 7 years. But in the back of my head, I was always planning to get back on there. Does that make sense? Without your failures, you don't know there's a process. Without making a mistake, without hitting a wall, you don't know that there's a wall there. Without going into the dark, you don't know that there's a light you're looking for. And so you have to fail. You have to go out and just take action and move quickly in a direction. And you'll identify if you're in the wrong direction the faster you move. Does that make sense? When you fail, don't give up on the process. There is a book of the week every week. It's part of something me and Mike have decided that we'd organize for everyone. It took us far longer than we thought. He and I put about an hour aside to organize all the books that he and I have read that really coincided with the 52 Weeks of Wealth, the 52 Wealth Principles. And Mike's suggestion was we should put a book down for every week that coincides with the principles. Because if you read Broke to $250,000, which was my first book, I talked about my book of the week. I've read over 280 books. Every week it goes up like a book or two. And so by the end of the year, I'll just assume I hit 300, and then I'll go back and count, and it was probably more than that because Mike's been giving me additional books on top of my already existing routine. And so in Broke to $250,000, I talk about reading a book a week, how that's helped me become more successful than the people around me, at least the people I grew up with. There will always be more successful people than me. I applaud them. I hope to spend time with them and learn from them and bless them. And at the same time, I don't intend to stay where I'm at. Does that make sense? So the book of the week was a way for us to simplify which books, because I know that most people are only going to ever read these 52 books. If they even read the foundational 5, we hope to get them into the next level. At least I know the people in our mentorship program, hands up if you're in the mentorship program, have been through it, are a coach in it. Yes. So I know that you guys and gals have read the foundational 5. The next step is the 52 weeks, the rest of the books, the other 47 books to the system. And these books, me and Mike pulled out of our large library of books saying, these are the ones. If we could give one book to a principal, these are the ones. So that said, this is actually one of Mike's very favorite books. So Mike, take it away. Tell us about the book of the week.
All right. Thank you, Walter. Book of the week is The Alchemist by Paul Coelho. And what's cool about this book is it's a little different from all the other ones we've done with self-help because it's a story. It's more of a fable. And actually it says the subtitle is A Fable About Following Your Dream. And it's really an amazing book. If you have kids, you can read it to your kids. My 13-year-old son read it himself. It's a great story, but every time I read it, and I've probably read it 5 times, I find something new in here that is profound. So don't let it fool you just because it's a fable. It's kind of like Richest Man in Babylon in that way. I don't want to I don't want to spoil any of the story, but in relation to what Walter's talking about today, Santiago, the main character, he fails. Okay, but he fails, but he does not quit. And you can see that in there. And it's, again, I don't want to ruin the story because it is a real story. And it's a beautiful story, too. It's beautifully written. Read it to your kids. If you don't have kids, get some kids.
Says Mike, who has 5 kids. He didn't have enough kids a few times.
Yeah, right. It's a great book. In fact, what Walter was talking about with me, I happen to have my two friends were my best men at my wedding. And without me asking them, they both read from The Alchemist at my wedding. So that's how important this book is to me. So,
that I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Mike,
I save stuff.
So, Mike, what was what would you say was the biggest principle from the book? If you could, and just give us one little understanding. You don't have to give the story away, but the background of the book itself, where it
Yeah,
takes place.
it's just what the subtitle says. You follow your dream, and we each have a personal mission. And another thing that I got when I was reviewing it for this is the stuff that we've been talking about, how we're all interconnected, and the universe is we're all part of one thing, and that's just an amazing concept. So.
It is. It is. Give Mike a round of applause. Thank you, Mike, for always being willing to jump on the call and share your knowledge and share the book of the week. And thank you for holding me accountable to writing the blog. Thank you for holding me accountable to getting the books actually organized and getting the principles written out there. I was running this all from the top of my head, and it wasn't allowing people to see the future. It wasn't allowing people to go back and look at the past and see the future of what was coming. And so Mike said, look, we should probably have this written down somewhere. This should probably be somewhere that our investors, our agents, our entrepreneurs, our friends can go back and look at so that they can prepare for the next week. And if they've missed out on the book, well, how do they know which book to read next? You don't have to wait a whole week to read a book, but you could jump ahead and read multiple books as you're going. It's up to you. It's your speed. But do yourself a favor and hold yourself accountable to the book a week. It's a very valuable lesson. It's a very valuable principle. Most CEOs read a book a week. That's part of what makes them CEOs. I don't know why, but I know that it works. I know that for myself, every book I've read has had some principle I've applied, and it's made me money, whether it was $1, $10, or it saved me time and allowed me to work less hours. So give Mike a round of applause. Thank you, Mike. You're awesome, brother.
I love doing this. It's fun.
So Mike is what we call an influencer. We don't have to ask for him to go out and give and share and be on stage. He's very good at it, very natural, and he just loves people. So Mike is our holistic attorney. So if you need a real estate attorney, you're looking to do some deals, Mike is the guy, and he is very good at the creative financing side, wholesaling side, contracts. He and I just did a deal where we're raising some private capital and some hard money to close on a property that otherwise I probably have to wait on due to the situation with commercial banks and COVID. The commercial banks are slow. They're requiring a 65% LTV, which is loan to value. For any investor out there who doesn't know what that means you have to bring 35% of the money to the deal on a commercial deal, which I don't care how rich you think I am. I don't like putting anything down on property at this point because I have a lot of friends who like a return on their investment. And so I have to now go back and say, hey, do you want to jump in a little bit more money on this deal? Which most of my friends are okay with. And let me also say, since this is about failing and this is about not giving up on the process, when I started this, I had no rich friends. There were no friends with dollar bills in their bank account waiting to get a return on investment from me. There were no friends sitting there saying, man, I hope Walter's got a deal that I could jump in on because my money right now is getting less than 1% in the bank. My friends didn't know what it was like to have a bank account. And a few of my friends maybe had under $5,000, $10,000, and they were the ones doing well. Does that make sense? It was a process that I'd committed to, was getting wealthier friends, getting smarter friends who I could learn from, who I could grow with, who I could help get richer. The secret to my success has been I've looked for people who want more and help them get more. That's it. I look for people who want more in life, and then I help them get more in life. Before I was a coach, I was a real estate agent. Before I was a real estate agent, I was an accountant. All I did was help people who wanted more get more. That was my job. It's always been my job. If you go back further, I worked in a sweatshop. It wasn't really a sweatshop, but it was a commercial bakery, and all we did was sweat in the shop. So they paid us hourly a lot. At the time, it was $18 an hour, and I was working third shift. And as a 20-year-old, that to me, with no college, that was a lot of money. It felt good. I mean, not the sweating or the work, but the paychecks. But at some point, and you may be at a point like this in your life, there was a point where I said, you know, I'm done. I'm done with working hard because I don't see an end to this. And every so often I see a nice car drive by, and even if they're to the hilt with debt on that, they also have a nice house. And even if they're to the hilt in debt on that, they enjoy their lives and on a lot of vacations, which means even if everything is leveraged and they're to the hilt on all of this, they're making more than me. And something in my head said, I can probably do better. Have you ever had that experience where you felt you could probably do better? Excellent. It took me 6 more years to finally meet a coach, to finally start reading. I read a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, which is book 3 in our foundational 5. And that book led me to an event called the Millionaire Intensive. And at the Millionaire Intensive, they made me look at my blueprint. They made me look at my failures, and they made me look at my fear of failure. That was my fear at the time. That's why I was not successful. It was not because I was looking at not being good at something. I was very good at everything I did. And then I'd find that I'd cap out around 8 months or a year into a contract, 8 months or a year into a company. I'd cap out and just be like, very good. But that was it. Didn't go and make more money. I just got very good because that's all I was aiming for. I wasn't aiming at money. I wasn't aiming at anything other than wasting 40 hours a week doing something very well. That was my goal. Anybody ever have that goal before? Just get through the week and do your job good enough that they don't fire you. And, you know, good enough where they keep you. How about that? I always did good enough so they'd keep me and maybe give me a raise. That was my goal. Keep me, give me a raise. And if you didn't keep me and give me a raise, in 6 months to a year, I was going to jump to another company and get paid more anyway. I'm here for the title because I discovered that titles, and if you're somebody working a job right now or building a business, understand that titles mean something to people. For whatever reason, I could go from working in finance as a billing representative to working as an administrator in a pharmaceutical company. And then I could go to being a assistant to a vice president in a pharmaceutical company. And then I could go to same skill set. I was just using Excel, right? Same skill set, shift over to planning analyst in Johnson & Johnson. Shift over to planning analyst. Now planning analyst got me a $35 an hour job at Coca-Cola. And when I left Johnson & Johnson, they said, we got a full-time position back here. Does that make sense? Of just the titles? All I was doing was hunting for titles and experience, because I didn't have the college play. And I wasn't going to wait the 4 years to go and get a starter job, right, from out of college. And so I found a way by going in, not knowing what I was doing, creating a title that sounded better. Resume titling was my skill, if I'm being real. And then I'd fail at the first couple of weeks, which is what they expected anyway, and then do well. And I never gave up on the process of go and find out what people do, what they want, and then produce that for them, even if you don't know how to do it right away. Does that make sense? This program was started because we want to build 100 millionaires. When I started it, I didn't have a clue how I was going to make that commitment, how I was going to actually build 100 millionaires. I just knew that was my goal. And as we've produced, we created the mentorship program. The mentorship program did not start with the 52 Weeks of Wealth. It did not start with the 100 millionaires. It started after the 100 millionaires. It was a step that we decided to create afterwards. Does that make sense? This wasn't all pre-planned out. We had a goal that the goal pulls us forward. It forces us forward towards doing this. Then we created the 100 Millionaires podcast. We created the Alchemist Nation podcast, created 15 Minutes of Gold podcast, created the Wholesale Mastermind cold calling sessions to add more value to the people that we were servicing, finding the needs. Everybody who's been on the Wholesale Mastermind calls, hand to the camera. Ever cold call with us, listen to us cold call, watch the lessons. Excellent. Thank you, Dorina, for running that for us. We appreciate you. Makes it a lot easier that I can jump off in 30 minutes to an hour instead of staying on the full 3 hours. So Chris Hayward, Ryan McGovern, anybody who's dialed during that session, thank you for helping us out. We appreciate you guys. And I see coaching in your future because you're clearly willing to allow other people to experience from your failures and your successes. So that's a key component. Now, I love written exercises because they allow you to remember things. So I want you to write down a failure that led to a lesson. A failure that led to a lesson. Take about 5 seconds, just a couple of words, just a failure that led to a lesson. Very quickly, just focusing on something very good in your life and how it was led to by a failure. Everybody got something written down? Yes? Any problems with this exercise? It's an easy one? Very good. Excellent. Now, look at something in your life that you're afraid of not being good at, afraid of failing at. Look at something in your life that you want, but there's something you're afraid you wouldn't do good enough, and that's what's stopping you. Everybody identify something like that? Excellent. Write it down. Write it down. And then underneath that, put a line. Now make sure it's lining up if you can. I didn't really plan this out too well for your paper skills, but imagine where you put the negative, the failure, and then the win that you got. And then now you're putting the failure that you're afraid of. What would the win be on the other side of that failure if you figured it out, even if you failed a couple times? And now I want you to put underneath that, what is the worst case scenario if that failure actually occurs? Worst case scenario. If that failure actually occurs, what's the worst that could happen? Never heard that saying? What's the worst that could happen? And then typically right after it does. That's Murphy's Law, right? So what we're going to do is avoid Murphy's Law by now saying, if that did happen, the worst case scenario happens. Everybody's with me on this? We're still sticking to this? We know where we're at? Excellent. Write it down. If that happened, what would you do about it? What could you do about it? How quickly could you recover? Is there a way to recover? Is there a way to recover? If there is a way to recover, how quickly could you recover? What could you do to do it? It's important that we're honest with ourselves, because as we do the math, things become simpler. Things become smaller than they actually were previously. Absolutely, Mitch. Fear setting. Exactly. If I did X, the worst that could happen is Y. Can I overcome? Move past this. Exactly. Thank you, Mitch. So Mitch Jorsky is the Scaredy Cat. Don't let that title fool you. He actually wrote the book, Scaredy Cat Guide to Real Estate, to Investing in Rental Properties. And he has a Scaredy Cat calculator, so it's great for evaluating deals. It's not about being scared. It's about being intelligent. And so somebody with a little bit of fear is somebody who wants to go get answers. That's all that is. So Mitch Jorsky knows how to get over the fear, knows how to help you buy more rental property, work on your first couple of deals, and evaluate. So we're glad to have Mitch as a coach. Thank you, Mitch, for that little statement. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you.
Now you have all of these pieces written down. Could you survive? Hands to the camera if this keeps, you're still alive at the end of this worst case scenario. Yes. Now, how quickly could you recover? Is it a year? Is it less than a year? Hands up if it's less than a year. Hands up if it's more than a year. George, I bet you could do it faster. I trust you, brother. So most of you understand you could do this in less than a year. George, was it a year and a month? 2 years? I don't know what your failure. Well, all right, you better not fail, bro. How about this? You just succeed. So even if it's 2 or 3 years, but and George, run with me on this one, right? Most people, they see that they could do it in less than a year. Could it be now solved? And even George, look at this. Could it be solved in a year? Could it be solved in 8 months? Hands up if it could be solved in 8 months. If there are ways to speed up that process. If there's one phone call you could make that would speed up that process. If there's 10 people you'd have to talk to, but that powerful group of people that you'd have to build relationships with could solve that process. Yes? What about 6 months? Could it be solved in 6 months? 3 months? A month? Hell yeah. Love it, Terry. Terry Wager from Generator Coaching, one of our coaches, solid mindset coach, understands the psychology of the human mind, is a neurolinguistic programmer and hypnotist, and previously was a licensed psychologist before he decided that he wants to use all the tools instead of working in a broken system. So thank you, Terry, for giving us a little comic relief today, but for all the people you're working with and helping out. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Walter is talking about the skill of financial freedom. And when we learn how to actually do a deal, and we learn how to go get a lead, follow it through, connect, secure the deal, exchange the money, we've just learned what financial freedom is, because all it is doing that over and over and over again. And so anybody that thinks it takes a long time to make wealth, it really only takes one time. Learn that process and just continue to repeat it. It's very simple.
It's the process. We started talking about that earlier with the mentorship members. It is all about the process. You will fail. Yes, of course. Look, I'm not going to lie to you, right? It's difficult. Everybody in the mentorship program paid $1,000 to be here, or for Brett, his people paid that money. So thank you guys. Everybody in the mentorship programs, yep, has paid to be in here. It's 8 weeks. It's grueling. It's a lot of work. If you're looking to progress, there will be some change involved. And so the mentorship program is designed to wake up the mind and allow you to go forward making these these step improvements, these process improvements, so you can add steps to your life, add habits. We have 8 weeks because they say it takes 30 days to create a habit. Well, it wasn't that much effort for me and Ron to stay on board for another 30 days to make sure the habit stuck. Does that make sense? So we don't start with just one habit. We have a bunch of habits that we include in the mentorship program that we bring you through. We do have a mastermind now that we're offering, a mastermind that is every month for a year. We actually skip, I believe, Christmas. We skip a month. So it's really 10 months that we go through the entire year. And it's a way to stay in touch. It's one more piece as we figure out how to build millionaires. It's one more piece that we said, you know what, it takes about 2 to 3 years, 5 years in some cases to build a millionaire. So as we're failing forward, seeing, okay, like our students aren't making the progress that we thought they could by now. Although some are, there's a large majority, 80-20, right? 20% are just crushing it, and you know who you are. And there's 80% who just need a little bit more. And so we're identifying ways to add a little bit more because they don't need the intensive every week call, but that monthly call is important. So we've added that program. And that's something now that we're offering and we're giving to people who are looking to stay on. Chris Hayward just jumped on. Melanie's already in it with us. And there's a couple of other members who I don't see on the call right now, but we've got a bunch of people who are in this mastermind program. Mike Shine is in it, in the mastermind program, who are moving forward with us. And it's working. Look, we're committed to your success. If we haven't figured out the system, we're going to. Because we're pushing towards building the 100 millionaires, building your success, moving you to the next level. If we're not the coaching company to do it with, I really don't care. Just do it. Do it with somebody else. Do it with yourself if you think you can. And use all of our free content. Use the 52 Weeks to Wealth. This is a continuity program that I have that I include for all of my mentorship members, the 100 millionaires, and we deliver it for free. Did anybody pay to be in this today? Not a single person. This is part of the system for our mentorship program, but we deliver it for free. Does that make sense? Now, obviously, the mentorship program gears you up right so you can utilize this properly. And so there's some pieces that only come from being in that group that you can now capitalize on. Everybody in the program knows what I'm talking about. Yes. There's a series of things that really add value to this. And so even because I know what it's like, I remember thinking, because my first coaching program was not $1,000, it was $10,000. So it was much more expensive. And that's why we've made this as inexpensive as we possibly could to still get quality people in. And you're going to find in your business that you tweak, you test, you beta test things, you see if it works. Everything we've ever sold, we did for free first. Does that make sense? Our mastermind, we did for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months for free before we charged, I think, $250 for it. Now it's $2,500 because we realized the price of it. And yes, we have payment plans. Thanks to Chris Hayward giving me the incentive to go and create one. So there's now, and that's something new. It was a beta test. You know, what can people afford? What keeps skin in the game so that they're engaged? And honestly, we wouldn't charge the $1,000 if, like, because we really don't care, right? We make our money when you go and buy real estate, and eventually you have enough money to partner with us. We're looking to build a 10,000 unit REIT, a $1 billion company. And so the only way to do that is with people who have a net worth of $10 million, 100 people with a net worth of $10 million, which is where Ron and I will be next year. Well, doesn't necessarily have to be net worth. Hold on. Asset valuation of $10 million. Our net worth will be probably closer to 5 million next year. And that's okay, right? Because we keep our debt under 50%. That's part of how we've acquired our properties. It's part of, like, built in. We joke about an 80% purchase price. Like, so if the building's worth, I don't know, 600,000, we're going to buy it for 500,000. Does that make sense? So we build in equity. And I know that's why Ryan McDermott was attracted to the training in the first place. And Ryan, so great financial advisor. He understands you want to buy an opportunity, not buy a liability. And so if you do want some free coaching, he does one-on-one session for the people in the mentorship program. So if you join the mentorship program, Ryan takes care of us, gives you a one-on-one session, and he's in all of our calls. So he's a valuable resource. So thank you, Ryan, for being a part of it. We appreciate you. And that statement you made is true, right? That statement you made is true. And where did it come from, Ryan?
Wait, which statement is this?
The one I just forgot that I said that I was hoping you would remember.
No, I mean, I think the statement you're talking about is the, you know, if you could buy real estate, you know, at an 80% discount, and you can improve it and add another 20% on top of that, you can, you know, you're getting a 40% arbitrage almost immediately if you do it right, if you buy it right. And that I can't remember where you said that, but I heard that and I said, okay, that I get as a financial person, as a spreadsheet person, as a numbers person. But how do you do that? How do you go out and do that? You have to go out and hire coaches, and you have to go find the right mentors to kind of guide you into those programs. And that's, you know, kind of why I joined the mentorship program, why I stay involved in this group.
Yeah. And thank you, Ryan. It's been, we've gained so much by having you in here, and you deliver so much value. So Ryan came through as a student and then became a coach. And the training that he delivers and the coaching he does it's a part that we've always wanted. I always wanted a financial degree and be able to deliver financial advice. But I never had the patience to go through it all. And I was just much better at real estate. And so it's always been in the back of my head that I have to partner with somebody. And Ryan gave us that opportunity to help us get people moving to the next level. So thank you, Ryan. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And as far as the equity position goes, we're consistent about this. We go off market. That's the only way you're going to get these discount deals is we go off market and we buy something that nobody else knows about. And then we do the value add. My mentor will make fun of me for using the word value add because anytime he goes on Bigger Pockets, who's on Bigger Pockets? A member of Bigger Pockets right now? Who hasn't raised your hand for Bigger Pockets? I see you, Christina. Get on there. It's good for you. I promise. Sam, it's Bigger Pockets, bro. So so he just discovered this website, right? I discovered this website back in 2009, and I've been on 2008. I've been on Bigger Pockets since I bought my first house and bought wrong in 2008. And so it's been now 12 years of listening to these guys, studying. I almost forget that people don't know about it. And my mentor, he says, dude, what's with this Bigger Pockets thing? These guys on here are doing this BRRRR strategy, BRRRR. What is this? Buy, rent, renovate, refinance, repeat. No kidding. I've been doing this for the last 30 years. It's not always common sense, though, is it? For some people, they've been doing very well, but Bigger Pockets provides a lot of value. Well, the other day I step into the cigar shop and we're having a conversation, which by the way, now Chris knows where the cigar shop is, has had a conversation with my mentor. That was awesome. And he said to me, he's like, I'm sick of hearing the word value add. Everywhere I go on Bigger Pockets, it's value add, value add, value add. He's like, I don't think people even know what a value add is. He's like, this is just a fancy way to say you fix shit that's broken. Like, obviously that makes it worth more. Obviously it's going to improve your net worth. Well, a value add is how you get that extra 20%. Ryan was talking about it. How do you buy a building and within a couple of months have 40% equity? This is the strategy Ron and I have adhered to religiously. And then why are we under a 50% equity position? Why do we have a 50 to 60% equity position? It's because not only have we done value add, not only have we purchased properly, we also have purchased in a market that is slowly appreciating. The cash flow is paying down the mortgages, amortization. We're saving on our taxes thanks to depreciation. And we're getting cash flow, which we're then putting down into our mortgages and improving our buildings further. So it's creating this every year 5-10% increase in value of the portfolio. So you really can get to a very, very, very wealthy position by following the process, doing things the right way. Does that make sense? And it's not complex. What I just said sounds very easy, yes? It sounds like you could do it. Yes, even you who has no experience in real estate, has never bought a house before, or has only bought a single family, or has only bought one multifamily. Yes, you could do this because at some point, every master was once a disaster. Yes, bringing it back. You wrote that down earlier. I too, right? We're buying right now 8 units, 6 units, and a flip. So we're buying right now 14 units in 3 transactions. Oh, I guess 15 units, but we're going to flip one. In 3 transactions, it's 4 buildings. And we're doing it all closing in the same month or 2 months. And it's easy now. Last year, we bought, in the last 6 months, we bought 35 units. And so we're just stacking on another 14. And we're moving faster than we've ever moved. And it's almost effortless. I tell Ron, hey, got this one under agreement. There's one he hasn't even seen yet, which he's going to see this week because he's been bugging me like, bro, you got to get me in this thing. And our property manager hasn't been in them yet, but we're working on all those steps and it's just effortless. Just a couple of texts, right, Ron? I mean, you're doing most of the work. Ron's doing a lot of the paperwork, the legwork with the banks and getting all the paperwork to them. And so there's a lot of work that he's doing, but I've already done my legwork and I just, keep the plate spinning, just making sure that the plates are spinning and everybody's running okay. It was not like that on my first single family, right? My first single family I bought in 2008. I bought the best house in the worst area. And so was fighting the tide. Did not buy with 80% equity, did not buy with a value add proposition. Does that make sense? I mean, there was a value add proposition. There was value to add, but I was fighting the tide. And so when I sold in 2012, I broke even. I took my money back out that I put in. And if I think about the mortgage that I spent the entire time, I probably lost about $15,000 in the time that I was there. Probably closer to 40 if I really, it was 15,000 a year that I lost because I was living rent free prior to. Does that make sense? So this luxury of a single family I thought was going to be an investment ended up costing me $40,000 at the end of it. Fortunately, I got my $30,000 back that I'd put in renovations and down payments 4 years later, just by forcing depreciation, by forcing that value add. And so I learned a very valuable lesson. 1, I don't buy single families. 2, I buy multifamilies that cash flow. And 3, I buy in a city I know. That first house was in Taunton that I had never lived in before. I just decided I was going to move into a new city because it was closer to work. And the next property I said, I'm buying in Fall River. I'm buying a multifamily. I'm buying in the areas I understand. And I got a mentor. And my mentors, I got 2 mentors. One was teaching me investment. The other one owned 13 units in the city. And so he was a big landlord, in my opinion. Now I'm buying 13 units in one shot. But at the time, he was bigger than I was. Does that make sense? That all somebody has to be is just a little bigger, a little further ahead of you to be able to teach you. And so he was my real estate agent. and a real estate investor. So he understood the numbers. He was patient with me. He was kind. He was understanding. He took the time to walk me through the process. And after I closed on my first house, I'll never forget, I was getting fear of pulling the trigger. I never bought a multifamily before. And he calls me up and he says, hey, look, this house, I think you should be here. And I told him, I'm moving right now. I can't leave my family to go to this showing. He said, you have to get here. There's a whole bunch of people. It's a 3-family for 157, turnkey, nothing to do. This is the deal. And I was like, man, like, I don't know. Are you sure? He's like, yeah, this is the one. Because we've been hunting for a while. And I got there and I got cold feet after looking at the house. I knew it was the right one. I just didn't know what the next step was. I kind of got burned in my last house, that fear of failure again. And he looked me in the eyes, and this is what any good mentor will do. And he said, if you don't buy it, I will. I'm only working with you because I have my fiduciary rights as a real estate agent. I have to give you this opportunity because I presented it to you first. If I did not present this to you, I would not have to, I would be able to just buy it. But because I presented it to you, I have to have this conversation. And I was like, no, okay, I'll buy it. Thank you. And I bought the house and it being one of my best deals. I sold it 3 years later and made $150,000 profit on it. Is that cool? I also lived there rent free for 3 years. And through the divorce that I went through, it was paying me my only income because I'd quit my job prior to that. And so the only income that I was making during that period was that property that I was terrified of. Does that make sense? And it was a mentor that pushed me over the edge and said, look, this is the sort of shit I do. If you don't want to do it, I will. And I'm just giving you the chance, giving you the opportunity to capitalize now while you still can. Is that fair? That you have to somewhat rely on smarter people than you, not necessarily smarter, but people who have more experience, lived a little longer, know that specific thing. Look, just because you choose a mentor does not mean you choose every aspect of their life. Right? You choose a mentor based on the things that they're good at, and you choose another mentor based on the things that they're good at. And you have multiple mentors. You should have multiple mentors in your life, multiple coaches, people for health, wealth, and relationships, people for different aspects in your business. Marketing is a different aspect from sales. Sales is a different aspect from the back end, bookkeeping. Acquisitions, evaluating a deal is different from finding a deal. Does that make sense? Negotiating the deal is different from finding the deal and acquiring the deal. There's a whole financing a deal is an entirely separate step. There's deals, money, labor. Those 3 aspects, there's skills, money, people, skills, energy, people, network. There's aspects that you might want to get a coach in or a mentor or join a mastermind that has all of these pieces. Does that make sense? And look, this conversation's only about becoming a millionaire. If becoming a millionaire is not your thing, then this conversation's not for you. That's okay. Broke people live happy lives too. It's true. I was broke. I was happy. I didn't know the difference. But what I'll tell you is once you do know the difference, you only want to make a little more. You only want to help a few more people. You only want to just keep going just a little bit more. I get asked all the time by my family and friends, especially the people from my past who I still love and care about deeply, but they ask me this question: when is enough enough? When are you going to stop? When will you know you had enough? And I'll steal the quote from Charlie Munger, and he said, just a little more. Just a little more. Because the game is fun. The game is fun. It is so rewarding. They asked me, why do I coach when I'm already, by their standards, rich, by their standards, wealthy? Why do I still coach? And Ron asked me the other day, he said, well, what are you going to do once all this is done? You know, once we've made the money, we've hit all our financial goals, what are you going to do? And I told him, I was like, Ron, I already hit my financial goals, man. Like, I'm doing what I want to do every day. This training, this coaching, this building 100 millionaires, this is my purpose. It's why I'm here. I'm here to help other people get out of the situation that I was once in, and if possible, avoid it. That's why I love having young guys on the calls like Brett, Ryan, Chris, like having you guys on here. I can avoid so much pain that you don't have to go through, right, Paul, Christina, like Howie, these are Samuel, these are things that you don't have to experience. their experience is that with the right understanding, the money comes easily, right? You don't have to compromise your health the way I compromised my health. You don't have to compromise your relationships the way I compromised my relationships. You don't have to go crazy to get $1 million. You can just do the right things, follow the process, follow the steps, hang out with the right people, and it becomes a lot easier. There's a famous quote. Well, it's not that famous, but I'm making it famous. There's a quote in The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles that says, if you focus on the best and surround yourself with the best, you will become the best. And that quote, as I focus on the people I want to spend more time with, the people who I think are extremely successful and I want to learn from, as I focus on them, I notice they talk to me more. I notice that they start to surround me more. And then as I surround myself in those successful people, I've identified that I'm becoming more successful, much nicer, a much more caring person, a much more knowledgeable person, able to give more. Does that make sense? So becoming a millionaire is not about the million, it's about who you become. And as you get that first million, you realize there's room to grow. You can become better, you can become more, you can improve more, you can help more. So I implore you to at least give it a try. I was ready and willing to dedicate 5 years to be successful when I set this plan in motion. I was ready and willing to dedicate 7 years when I set this plan in motion because I was so sick and tired of being broke, tired of being poor, tired of having excuses, tired of not being able to do what a man is supposed to do, and that's provide for his family, provide options, provide opportunities, comfort, support. I remember having the thermostat in my first house at 55 degrees all the time because I was afraid of the gas bill. And I made a commitment that one day I would never, ever look at my utility bill in any other way other than to say, that was no big deal. I work, I earn for comfort. I earn to have more than I expect. And I enjoy doing it. And I absolutely love seeing other people have that opportunity. I was willing to commit 10 years. If it took 10 years of my life to get to that place where I no longer had to have my wife at the time freeze in 55-degree weather for a year because of my stubborn inability to increase income. Does that make sense? And so I implore you, give it a try. Just focus on what it would be like to have $1 million, to have a net worth of $1 million, have 10, 15, $20,000 months. See some of the months that me and Ron have seen, $300,000 months. Not saying that we do them every month, although that is a goal. Having $100,000 months, $150,000 months, $50,000 months. These are things that we can do consistently now. But before, it took me a whole year to make that money. Does that make sense? So I implore you, give it a try. Just taste it. Just think about what another million in your life would be, whether you've had $1 million or not. Because if you had $1 million, just think about another. And if you've never had $1 million, just think about what you could create if you did. And so if you're interested and you want to learn more about the mentorship program, that's the whole purpose in it. Shoot me a text at 774-526-4796, or you can go to gualteramarello.com/mentor, and it's all described right there on that page. It says all the stuff we're going to hold you accountable to, the access to the free coaching sessions from the celebrity coaches, the 8 weeks of grueling, consistent habit building, the 6 books that you're going to read. I don't even put it on the website. I don't tell you about that until you get in. And the net worth tracking sheet, the accountability, the calls, the additional jumping on a little bit early with us on Saturdays, hanging out with us, and the partnerships that we create. The secret to becoming a millionaire is partnering with the right people. My first million was earned when I partnered with Ron. My first million in a year was earned from a partnership deal that I did with Ron. And so turning Ron into my first millionaire also turned me into my first millionaire. Does that make sense? And so in order to build $1 billion company, I've got to build 10,000 millionaires. Does that make sense? Or I could build 100 decamillionaires. but I got to start with 100 millionaires. That you got to start somewhere. There's a process. You don't expect a 100-year-old oak tree just to exist because you watered a little acorn. Does that make sense? We agree? You can't just jump the process. That's how life is. Well, it comes in spurts and growths. It comes in lessons. It comes in relationships and building. And so that's how it works. Don't rush the process. Trust the process. You will fail. Do not give up on the process. That said, for anybody in the mentorship program, hang around for the next 15, 20 minutes. We're here to answer any questions. If you haven't already gone to gualtermorello.com, take this time, jump in there, check out all the free content we're constantly adding. Also, Ron changed the webpage, so it looks a lot nicer. So feel free to jump on. Any questions any of the mentors have, any of the 100 millionaires have, mentorship members, this is your chance to ask. Speak freely. Or ahas, things you gained from this conversation. Coaches, you guys are welcome to join in as well. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I'm about to make a jump away from my job in the next month or so. So I'm in the fear of failure stage right now, but I've got a lot going on, and I know I can do a lot with that time that I'm at work not doing anything. So I'm going to need a little help with a W-2 partner, how to structure that, because I'm most likely going to need that for the first year and a half or so in that transition zone if it's not a commercial one. So that was something I was hoping I could learn how to get around, still getting loans and being in a transition.
So that's actually really cool. So I'd say my first 3 houses I had partners on who were W-2. One was my girlfriend at the time. Actually, 2 were done with my girlfriend at the time. One was done with my brother. One was done with my mother. And so it's about building relationships with people you trust, people that you like, and people who have decent credit and a W-2. So that does work, and you build a nice partnership with those people. That's an option. The other option is far riskier. It takes far more skill and maneuvering. But that's what Ron and I do, where we go and we buy hard money. And before I could prove my income statements, I was buying properties with hard money and just buying them so well that I could cash flow at 12%. And when I finally got to the point where I could do a cash out refi, actually it wasn't a cash out refi, it was just a cash out. It was just a refinance. When I got to that point, I had a little portfolio that could refinance all in one little lump sum. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. So at what point were you able to do that refinance?
2 years into being an agent. And unfortunately, year 1, I made 17 grand. So year 2, I had to double down and make $90,000 in order for it not to look like a loss the first year. They average the last 2 years as a self-employed individual.
So
Gotcha.
just to jump on what Walter's saying, it took him 2 years because he didn't have this, and you have this. You already have a lot of the tools, so you can jump in and actually accelerate his experience.
There are people in the program. Go ahead,
Probably.
Mitch. Yeah, go ahead, Mitch.
I was
Thank you,
literally
Terry.
just going to say, I second what Terry just said. I can, basically speak from experience because this wasn't around when I started 7, 8 years ago. I'm sure it was, I just didn't find it. And that is a regret and a lesson. But to add to what Galter said in regards to, that game plan, Ryan, don't be afraid of hard money. That's one lesson in fact, when we did the exercise earlier, that's literally what my lesson was, that I was afraid to use hard money 5 years ago. I missed out on 2 awesome deals that I'll never be able to buy in South Florida probably ever again at those prices, right? Because I didn't understand the process. I was scared of the cost. I was scared of I had an issue paying that high interest each month. But like Galter said, if the numbers work, I mean, heck, I'll do it if the numbers break even for a year, because I know a year later I can refi into a loan, and that doesn't have to be a W-2 loan. This can be also the long-term private lenders. Yes, you pay a premium where you might be paying 3 points higher, but it doesn't matter because I'll work my numbers at the beginning to know that, hey, this cash flows, this is still a good deal. So without the W-2, and this has been my blueprint because I'm a full-time investor. I haven't had a W-2 in a little over 3 years now. It's acquire through either my own cash or hard money. And then as soon as possible, you can do it in less than a year, but just bank on a year to play it safe. You find the private lenders that do the long-term loans and you refi into one of those. And did I used to get angry that I couldn't get, you know, a 3% loan from a traditional bank? Yes. I'd rather pay 3 than 5.5 or 6. But if it cash flows and it works, I'd rather have a deal that makes money than no deal at all. So that's the biggest thing that you might get stuck with, is that you had these old cheaper opportunities with the W-2 that you won't have without the W-2. Don't let that get you stuck. Don't, as the
Right.
saying goes, don't trip over pennies on your way to dollars.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a while. We've carried some loans, some hard money loans. One it was 14 and 2. We carried for almost 2 years before we finally refinanced it. But we cash flowed every day. We just bought it really well. And we've done that so many times. Our hard money guys freaking love us because we carry our notes for the full term. We carry for a full year. We go over another 4 months, 6 months. And
So-
Yep, go ahead.
So you say you bought it really well, and I don't know that everybody knows exactly what that means. Can you explain what you mean when you say you bought it really well?
Yeah. Great question, Terry. I love that. So when I say we bought this one really well, I'm talking we paid $257,000 for 3 buildings: a 4-family, a single family, and a commercial building that unfortunately we never really figured out what to do with it. So we'll say we bought 2 buildings. And the single family, day one, as soon as we closed, we put it back on the market. We put it on the market and had it under agreement in 11 days for $140,000. So even though we owed 14% interest on that $257,000, when that building sold 3 or 4 months later, the note got paid down to only $110. And that $110,000 note, even though it was 14% interest, was only, I think, $1,100 a month or something. And we had a 4-unit building that was pulling in $2,800 a month. So it was $3,200 a month. A little more than that. Yeah, about $3,200 a month. And so when you look at the cash flow on that thing, we could hold that forever, right? A 4-family where your mortgage is only $1,100. Yeah, it wasn't ideal because we weren't paying down the principal. Yeah, it wasn't ideal because we had a higher interest. That mortgage could have been probably closer to $700 a month and been paying down $200-300 towards principal. But the financing options weren't there at the time. Sometimes, like Mitch was just saying, you just work with what you got. And then instead of refinancing it, we actually sold that building. And so we sold that little complex that we bought for $257,000 for $400,000 and cash flowed the entire time that we held it 2 years later. That's what I mean by buying it right.
Right. Now, let me ask you another question. When you went and first gave your numbers to the people that were selling it, they were all in right away, weren't they?
Of course. They're like, that's a great offer.
It's funny.
Or you had to negotiate a little bit.
That's how we know there was meat on the bone, because we gave them what they wanted. They were okay with 257.
Galter, I
Yeah.
know this is your ultimate fear, and it's mine. When your first offer gets accepted, you're just like, son of a, I just left so much money on the table.
We knew we did after we closed. Like after they said yes, we're like, shit. Well, you know what?
And so
Seller's
what's
happy.
the lesson there?
Just buy it right. As long as you can make money, who cares what you pay the seller?
Right, but if they're taking that first offer that quick, isn't the lesson to go a little bit lower? Isn't to open your mind to the idea that you can offer something outside of what they're wanting?
If this was an off-market deal, I'd say yes. This was on market, and there were other investors involved, and so we knew the other investors were doing that, and so because they were stuck in their ways, and so we went and we overpaid for this property, and yes, absolutely. Typically, that is a scenario. If you're off-market, you got no competition. Just let them throw a number out, and then you throw out a low number to rescale and regauge, and you work your way to a number that works for you. And hopefully them as well.
And the key there is knowing your market and like knowing your customer, so to speak, for lack of a better word. I mean, there's a big difference between going after something that's listed on market and going something, for something that's off market. Off market, you can obviously negotiate more. When something's listed, like Galter did, like he made an offer, the numbers worked for him. He still was buying right, but he knew he could get it cheaper, based on them just snapping up that offer. That's fine. I mean, that doesn't mean he quote unquote overpaid. It means he bought a good deal that, all right, that sucks. Wish I would have offered lower, but it doesn't make it a bad deal. I feel like, just so people don't get confused. Like, you always want to try and get your best price, but it's not a bad deal just because he didn't get it for 10 grand cheaper, because he's not buying anything that doesn't cash flow. It doesn't meet his criteria. And that's the key. I think where people get into trouble is when you're paying too much, as in like, this doesn't meet my expected cash flow, or this isn't going to cash flow if I have, whatever it is, like one vacancy, you name it. So it's about buying right. But then on top of that, yes, you want to try and get as cheap as possible.
Yeah. You never want to leave money on the table, right? Like because then you have conversations like this in front of, 35 people and they're like, oh, you messed up. But did we
And
know?
I think the real big point is, you didn't mess up because you knew your numbers. And so no matter what, the offer that you made, you knew you would make money, even if they took it fast, or even if you could have got it for a better price. You knew you were making money before you made the deal.
Yeah.
He bought a good deal. He bought a good deal and then realized he could have bought a great deal. I think that's what it is. So if you're failing, if you're quote unquote failing by buying good deals, then I'll take that all day.
Yep.
It's funny we say that all the time, that we're my worst deal I still made money on. So we've never lost money. So I hate to even put that out into the universe. So we've always made money on every deal we've done. We've come close to breaking even. We've looked at deals and said, wow, let's never do one with margins that tight again. We did one flip that we only made, I think, $30,000 on. And Ron and I were like, dude, we don't want to do that anymore. We take on way too much headaches to do only $30,000 on a flip. And I know that there's people on here who would be thankful to get $30,000 on a flip. God bless you. You can overpay me on a deal any day. I'm okay with it. But as far as we're concerned, we know our dollar amount, and we won't touch a flip if we're not making 50 grand. It's not worth our time, not worth our energy. And if you're able to do it for less, you're doing some of the work yourself, God bless you. Absolutely. We want to see you successful. Go out there, take those deals.
Hey, Walter, I was just looking at the panelists, and somebody has a question. Anderson has a question.
Where we got? What is the question? Terry, since you see it, what is the question?
Hey,
I just has hand up.
I just raised my hand. Hey, Dorina, thanks for the invite. This was an awesome, it's my first time. I'm not even part of the, I just know Dorina as a friend, but hey, Walter, thanks for the invite and having me here. It's a lot of smart people in this group, so that's awesome. I always love to just talk to people that know more than I do. But hey, I was going to say to Ryan, I was in Ryan's position, when I quit the bank. I used to work for Wells Fargo. I've been on W2 maybe like a total of maybe 4 years in my whole life. But the last job I lasted 2 years, which was my longest run with the W2. The coolest thing, so yeah, it is a little bit hard at the beginning trying to, get your business structure and the income and the taxes for a bank to give you a regular loan. But also when you use that LLC, your business, you can actually leverage more because it doesn't go on your credit. So you're actually limited when you're on W2 because your DTIs and things like that. But once you're established and you start getting those private loans, they don't even go on your credit if they're business loans, and you have way more leverage. So like, I think it was Mitch who said, I'm not happy paying the 3%, 3.5%, but a 6%, give me all the mortgages I can at 6%, So you can actually leverage more with the private mortgages. That's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anderson.
Thank you.
Anderson, 100%. I mean, that's what it is. Like, the loans I do for long-term, refis on my properties, that's what it is. I mean, it's basically a quote unquote business loan, and, you're paying a few points higher, but it's not on your personal credit. and there's really no limit on how many loans you can get because it's tied to the property. You do usually have to write a personal guarantee, but I don't plan on getting foreclosed on any of my properties, so I'm not really worried about that. So it doesn't touch your personal credit. So it's like anything else. There's pros and cons to everything. So yeah, I might be paying a little bit more, but I don't have the same restrictions as you would doing the W-2 conventional loans.
100%, yeah.
Thanks for throwing that in there, and thanks for joining this group. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Just oh shit, am I making a mistake by doing this? But I'm just that place is holding me back. I mean, I'm doing a lot outside of the job, and I know it could be more. What I'm going to do is, so I'm selling my property, going to use that for 1031. I'm going to get approved for a 203K loan before I quit. And that'll allow me to save more and get hard money for another property. So that's kind of the only thing that's holding me there. Once I get approved for that, that'll free up more capital for a hard money. I just want to make sure I'm not making a mistake going through that transition, but you guys just summed it up pretty good with the private money. So
100% stack up cash, at least get 6 months of reserves in the bank, stack up that cash. And then you see me and Mitch like shaking our head yes the whole time, nodding our head yes the whole time. You're saying I'm gonna go and buy another house using the FHA 203K before I go and quit the W-2. Exactly, that's the process.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. I mean, honestly, and I had this when me and Ryan had our call. We talked about that. I gave him that example. I had like a 3-month notice, so to speak, that I knew when I kind of was going to be walking away from the W-2 and it was going to be ending. And I was on the med hunt to find a property and get one more conventional loan under my belt while I had that W-2. It's like leverage it while you have it. So, and Ryan McDermott actually said something in the comments that touches on exactly what Ryan McGovern's doing. This is credit to Ryan McGovern because he actually has a plan. He has a strategy. It's not just like, I hate my job, I'm quitting, I'm gonna be a real estate millionaire. Like he's not doing that at all, which you'd normally get out of like a 24-year-old, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But McDermott said, he's just like, if you have a good business plan, don't doubt yourself, just execute. The fear never goes away. And the reason that is impactful is because like Ryan's a successful financial advisor. I mean, sorry to age you, Ryan, but he's like 40 years old. Like he's been around for a minute and he's saying the fear doesn't go away. We're peers. We pretty much grew up in the same time in New York. Like, so the fear never goes away. And that's like a big point I noticed in that comment he made. So just make a good plan, execute, because the only way to basically answer your question, Ryan, about, am I making a mistake? Well, if you don't want to make a mistake, just do nothing.
Yeah.
Like, that's shameless plug. My real estate post this week. It was about failing your way to success. And it's like, how do I not make a mistake in real estate? Just never do a deal. Never do a deal. Because
but on the other side,
that's actually a mistake.
Opportunity cost.
Well, yeah, but there's no way you can not make a mistake in like you're going to make a mistake at some point in real estate. You can't foresee everything. Something's going to happen, whether it's, within your renovation, whether it's, a mistake with your financing where you could have went a better route. Like it's just going to happen. And you know what that's called? It's called a lesson. Experience is the best teacher. So learn from Galter's experience to cut your learning curve.
I think the biggest mistake, the biggest failure is people hesitating and not pulling the trigger. I mean, it really is. I've seen over and over, and I've been guilty of it myself, is like, oh, I don't know if I should do this, or I don't know if I should do that. And every time you wait like that, whether it's coaching or buying properties or whatever it is, whenever we wait, it's because we're listening to our fear instead of moving towards the faith of what's next in that process. And so we got to step into it. If it's expensive, it's probably a good idea. And so move forward, check your numbers, but think about what you're getting out of it.
Yeah, I would say that makes sense. And Julie, I saw your hand up, so we'll bring you on. And Anderson, we see your hand as well. It's definitely an expensive game to buy real estate, and that's because it's worth it. So
exactly.
Just remember that. Go ahead, Julie. What is your question?
Well, I actually got a little bit of the answer because with the lesson this week being you will fail, and the exercise to write down your biggest failure For me, I didn't even have to write it down. It's ingrained in the back of my brain, right?
That's a dangerous place to keep your failures.
Yeah, write it down.
That's the
Definitely.
subconscious mind. Let's get rid of it.
Yeah, get
Probably,
it on the
'cause-
paper so it's not in your head.
Go ahead. Sorry, Julie. Go ahead.
No, it's true. I'm just trying to process it because it has kept me stagnant and moving forward, you know? I don't know how many people have actually achieved a flip in this group. It would be good to see how many people have actually gone through the process because the failure happened during me trying to get through that process. So that's why it's hurting so bad, right? Because I didn't achieve the goal. So dealing with those emotions, obviously being a female creature, we're very emotional. So it's like, what do you use? You know, what tools do we use to continue to deal with those failures so we don't stay down and get back up and keep going?
Julie, one thing I'll say is reach out to Dorina. Dorina, if you could reach out to Julie. Dorina owns 3 multifamilies in Worcester. She came here from Russia, barely speaking, well, she speaks good English, and I'll make fun of prepositions.
She does. I've spoken with her.
But she can give you some really good advice in that department. And if you still own the building and you're still struggling with it, I'm sure she and I can help you out with moving that thing.
Awesome. I just think that's that you're doing a great thing and it would be helpful for us to be able to talk out some of the things that hold us back too, to get into the next level in this game.
Yeah.
Right. I can speak to that. That's exactly what I deal with. I deal with emotions, and you said something that was really interesting, perked my ears up, is that I'm a female, so I have emotions. And the fact of the matter is all of us men on this call, we have emotions too, and they stop us. We look different, except for Mitch. He does not have emotions.
No, actually, I was
that's
gonna
why
say
his
I'm
whole
super
spirit
emotional. I'm
died.
probably like a woman when it comes to emotions.
Don't ask
and so-
Dorina.
He has one emotion.
She's sworn an oath not to tell everybody that I have no emotions and I'm like a machine. So
Right.
uh,
And so
Machine.
the reality is our emotions get the better of us when we don't understand what's going on. If that's something that's holding you back, I just put a link. I can do it again because it keeps moving up really fast. But get a hold of me because that's exactly what I deal with. I help people really get their emotions in check so they can get their mindset focused to move forward. The other thing I wanted to say is most likely when you were doing your flip, you did not have a team and you did not have support like you have here. And so if you're not in the mentorship program, I would jump in. If you're not in the mastermind, I would look into that too, because the people who get into these programs really excel because they have the people who have already gone through it. And so even if you've messed up before, even if you've had a failure, those don't matter. It's what you do next.
yeah.
It was, and here's the hesitancy, if I could say one more thing.
Yeah.
That experience of failure happened with the person that I trusted as a mentor who has done it before. So I thought I was in good hands. So
Don't say their name.
no, I won't do that, but
Okay.
that's a little bit of the hesitancy, right? So what is the next best thing? Like, is it you guys? Is it another program, as Walter has mentioned, because you've been let down in when you thought you had the right person who had your best interest at heart?
I will. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, to look at that more generalized, like that's the thing, and that's the story you always get. And like McGovern's probably getting it from people like, oh, my uncle once tried to flip a house and lost a bunch of money, and then you don't do anything, right?
Yeah.
So
Every single day.
yeah, if we generalize this, like we've all been in personal relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, like someone that let us down. Do you never date again?
Yes. Yes. Never date again.
Exactly. So why is it when this
Monk
happens in real estate,
or
we
none?
never ever do another deal? I like that's what's mind baffling. And that holds true in so many different things. I mean, you know, we have jobs where we might get laid off unexpectedly or something, or feel like, you know, we were done wrong by our boss. Do we never get another job?
Exactly.
So it's just, you know, so it goes back to what Terry was talking about, you know, kind of like that fear factor. So I'm kind of just let you guys take it away from there.
And I love that question, Julie. And to answer it, yes, we are the right program for you and where you're at. 1, because we're the most affordable. And 2, because it's 8 weeks of figuring out exactly what the right program is for you. We are not the end all be all. We are the identifier of what you're looking for. There are 6 or 7 coaches on this program that you'll sit down one-on-one with and identify what your goals are, what you're looking to accomplish. And even if you don't move forward with one of those coaches, you get the opportunity to now identify the coach you're looking for. If a coach is what you need to get to the next level, it may be a business partner, it may be a mentor, it may be a mastermind. It may just be a book that takes you to the next level. And that's what this program is all about. It's about figuring out and identifying what your goal is for the next 3 years and moving you in that direction. Obviously, we haven't built out all the pieces to take you all the way, and that's why we only charge $1,000. It's enough for 2 months to identify where you're going in your life and actually take a good look at your life and say, okay, this is what I want to accomplish. This is the strategy. This is the process. And now to get there, here are the steps. And then it's up to you every day after the mentorship program in order to keep going. And we do have other programs, and Mike is committed to this, as well as myself and Ron, and he says it to me all the time on the 100 Millionaires. This program is designed to be as inexpensive as we possibly can make it, where people will still stay committed to it. Because if we offered it for free, they wouldn't show up.
Right.
We know that. We know I've gotten free programs and not showed up. And I've paid $35,000 and been like, you know what? I can't afford the flight and the hotel, but shit, I paid $35,000. I'm going anyway. And I stayed in that program for almost 3 years. So I know how valuable the putting the dollar down is. And so that's why we charge. And so
I think that also the thing that everybody has to realize at some point is the best investment you can make is not real estate, it's in you. And so when you invest in yourself, even if it didn't work out, you'll learn something, and you take that information into the next deal, into the next relationship, into the next thing. And that's what Mitch was really talking about, is you don't just quit because it didn't work out. You take the lessons from it and you move forward. And that's what this lesson is all about this week, is failure is a starting point to move forward.
Absolutely. Powerful. And guys, I've got to jump off because I have another Zoom call that I committed to. I'm going to leave. Darina, will you be on for a little while? I'm going to leave Darina as the host, so feel free to continue this conversation. The coaches are here. Hopefully everybody can stay on a little bit longer. Anderson had a comment he wanted to make. And Terry, take it away. Darina, you are the host. Ron, you're still a co-host. Thank you, everybody. Cheers to your success, and great job today. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Hey, I just quickly, I wanted to say I listen to Bigger Pockets. I would even say I might be Bigger Pockets obsessed. One theme that runs through all of, or not all of them, but most of them, is that they failed. And some of them failed in huge, huge ways, lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what they did was they said, I'm not going to quit. I know that this is the right way to go. And then they ended up on Bigger Pockets because they ended up being a success in real estate. So these are all lessons. The only way you can fail is if you quit. So if you keep going and keep pushing through, this is just a lesson for you. Trust me, everybody on here who's done real estate has had failures, including me. I'm not going to take the time, but trust me, I've failed in Pawtucket real estate. So I'm still
Mike,
doing it. Still doing it. So
you know what the key there is too, is that what you basically just said is that you don't get the benefit of your lessons if you don't push forward. So you learn the lesson, right? That lesson doesn't pay dividends unless you move forward and have these experiences again. So really, in order to get a return on your money on your quote unquote failures is by moving forward and being able to apply those lessons on your next deal, your next experience.
exactly.
Right. One of the things that's really important with what Mitch was talking about is having a coach, whether it's an investment coach or it's something like me, mindset, emotional state, being able to walk through those in an objective forum. You can really walk through and put a plan together to move forward with what's next. It is so valuable, and it's really about the next steps. It's about how to move forward and achieve what you're looking for.
And I would add, guys, because I always think about the time that, 5 years from now, my time will still pass, right? It will be 5 years from now. It's up to me how I want to look at 5 years and how I want those 5 years to be. So if I don't do anything, that's for sure nothing will happen. And if I do something, at least I feel good about the process, the journey, the people I surround myself, who I become within those 5 years, because they're going to pass either way. So I might as well take advantage of opportunities and connections. And yes, any mistake is just my investment in education, because I've had the worst tenants. Like, I lost money last year. It didn't make me stop. I was like, you know what? I could have had a coaching program for 10 grand, or I could have had my tenant to teach me a lesson, so anything could be turned into opportunity. And just sometimes it costs, whether it's time or it's money, but failing forward, it's kind of exciting, because like, once you hit the ground a couple times, there's no other way but getting up from the button up. So I would encourage not to wait, because the time will pass no matter what you do. So you might as well do the right thing.
I totally agree, Dorina, and I would add to that the thing I love about this group, and especially Walter and Dorina, is that we have a focus on fun. So this is fun. Even if you're failing, we're always looking to enjoy what we're doing, and because we're happy and enjoying it, we're attracting more people who are just into this for the fun. And I was reading something the other day. It said in 100 years, we're all going to be rotting corpses. So what are we doing, right? What are we doing? We're having fun. We're on this planet that's flying through the universe. Let's just have a blast with it.
Well, we plan to live 150.
150, sorry, my bad. 150 will be right there. Go vegan.
Go vegan.
Go vegan.
I don't know about that part.
Oh.
If you want to go vegan, go vegan. One of the things that was Dorina was saying and Mike was saying is this idea of trying to make the right decision. Just make the decision, then make it right. And a lot of people are trying to figure out the right decision. Make the decision, then follow through. Commit to the decision, make it right. Yeah. Because too many people are fickle in their decision making, and they never do. It's hesitation.
Yeah, Grant Cardone says that all the time. Just make a decision, even the wrong decision, and then just course correct. At least you're heading somewhere. You're sitting around in analysis paralysis. Like Dorina said, 5 years, 10 years will pass, and you'll say, oh man, I never did anything. That's the story of me with surfing. When I lived in California, I started surfing and then I stopped. And now it's been like 20 something, 30 years. I still don't know how to surf. Son of a.
You just get on the board. It's not that difficult.
Yeah.
Right, thanks.
Yeah.
I agree with the time passing. I mean, I'm only 24, but I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I was like reading these books when I was 16 and when I was 18, just buying that first house.
Oh yeah.
I have so much sympathy for you, Ryan. Bought my first property at 35.
It's like Melanie's son. Melanie, what's your son's name? Ryan? Or Owen.
Muted.
Yeah, so he came to one of our Fall River meetings, and he's, how old is he, Melanie? You're unmuted.
17.
17, and he already started a landscaping business, and he was listening, and it's just like, man, could you imagine starting at 16 and just crushing it? So great, so great. Good kid.
Yeah. Not awesome. And Mike, I know I never learned to play guitar. I went to school for 4 months. I was like, no, later. And I still only know how to play 4 songs. So, like, damn it, every time we have to get together with a group of people, I'm like, I wish I could just
jam, right? I own like 5 guitars and I can't play. But Gary Keller's the one thing said he started playing 20 minutes a day. Was it 20 minutes or 10 minutes? So that.
Yeah, and he got it. Like any language you learn, 20 minutes if you want to learn the language. spend 20 minutes a day. That's one thing that you can do about this goal. And look, 10 years, 2 years, 1 year from that point, you'll be, oh man, I understand the TV. Oh, so that's just, yeah, it's gotta be something every day. Otherwise, the time will just go and you will be like, what happened?
I have a quick question to ask. I'm looking at some properties with Ryan in Pawtucket, and I just want to know what's the amount of cash flow for each unit that you guys would use to make sure like it's a good cash flow amount.
100 a door at least.
100 a door. Okay.
Cash.
And that's after you move out because you're doing the FHA. So
Yeah.
but it's so tough. Like we've been looking, and there's only like 8 on the market right now, in like
Yeah,
under
it's crazy.
$400,000. Nothing came on the last 4 days. I've been looking for you.
No, I know you do because you always text me, and it's like it's on. They come on the market maybe a week later. They off. Someone bought it. It's under agreement. So
Also, Anthony, I have other people, mentors of mine, who say right now cash is king, and they're at 300 and 500 a door. So it's really what your tolerance is and where you think the market is going to go, you know?
I think it depends on the house too. I mean, if you're doing a turnkey, your cash flow is not going to be as big. But we discussed the option of you doing a 203K as well. Where if we find a rehab, then those numbers are going to be bumped up to 150, maybe 250 a door.
exactly.
So it all depends what type of loan you're doing and the specific house and the neighborhood, stuff like that.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Just want to address one thing a little bit. Probably I'm older than most of you. Well, I know I'm damn well older than most of you. I bought my first house in 1981. And I bought my second house in 1987. The first one was cash, and the second one was an 18.5% interest rate. So, you know, Julie, to answer your question, you're in this group. Ask yourself, why are you here on a Saturday talking to this group versus others? So that should give you a good indication. Also, this is a great family. I mean, it's a bunch of people who love investing. They like helping and improving the community. So, you know, I made more money, honestly, on those first, that 1981 and 1988 deal. And then I got divorced, so one of them went. But the point of the matter is, I've been burnt. Recently, I got burnt twice. So, I mean, you know, you have to realize just because you get partners and you trust and you get burnt, even with my experience, some of you guys weren't even born when I bought houses. And, you know, you win a couple, you lose a couple, move on. But you are ahead of probably 97% of the people who never even bought a house. So, you know, that's the thing. And then Ryan, the other thing is, I quit my $100,000 job in 1994. I said, fuck, I'm not working for anybody because they're the ones who dictated when I could make vacation for my kids. They were the ones who gave me a pay raise. I worked 90 hours a week, you know, to get a friggin' 15 grand bonus a year. No. And now I control my own destiny. So that's the only two things I would say, you know, at 60.
And
Thanks for
Mario
putting
makes
those
a
plugs
good
in there.
Mario
Thank
makes
you,
a good
Mario.
underlying point, and that's due diligence. We do it when we look at a property, right? We inspect the property. You know, we look into everything we can in regards to the history of that property, but a lot of times we don't do that with partners. And, you know, the same thing with contractors, right? You want to get a contractor that's been referred by someone that you trust because he's like, all right, I know they've worked with that person and, you know, this person had a good experience. So odds are that I'm going to have a good experience with them. So a lot of times people forget to do that with partners just because they might see that shiny object like this person has what I need. Well, you got to still do that with, you know, prudence. You can't just throw caution to the wind. So, I mean, anyone I partner with, it's either someone that I know, and that's part of having a network like this. So you can find partners that you know are like-minded and, you know, trustworthy people. But outside of that, if it's someone that's, you know, new to me, so to speak, I mean, I'm going to vet them as much as I can. I'm going to find someone that knows them. Honestly, I'll Facebook stalk them to see, you know, what they're like on Facebook, what they have going on, anything I can do to learn about their experience So I know that either A, they're blowing smoke, or B, there's someone that, you know, actually has integrity, you know, and gets their stuff done. And even with that said, there's no guarantee. Same as, you know, with a property. You could research it all you want. Something can happen. So there's no 100% foolproof plan ever. And I guess that's why the saying exists, you know, if you want reward, you got to take some risk. So it's all about managing that risk reward ratio. That's something very big in the stock and day trading world. And I think it holds true in any form of investing.
One of the things that Mitch is talking about is really reaction versus intention. And a lot of people have that shiny object syndrome is what we call it. But really what's going on is they're reacting to their emotions. And when we can actually step back and identify what's going on with us and really take the next steps with real fact involved instead of the emotion of the moment or the emotion of the fear of moments before that got us hurt, we can actually move forward intelligently based on a plan rather than based on, oh shit, I gotta go, or oh shit, I gotta do it, or I gotta jump into this deal. When we're intentional, we succeed. When we're reacting, all bets are off. You're like a pinball.
Writing that down. That's a good one.
Write it down.
Right or downer there.
So yeah, I just got to throw something in about Mario. I got to give him credit. I spent some time on the phone with him, and if you want to talk to somebody that knows options available to clients, no matter what situation they're in, he is definitely somebody to talk to. And I know he's pretty willing to speak with people and partner up with some people on things. So thank you, Mario. You are a genius.
No, I got married, so I'm not a total genius.
Mario is full of wisdom that has probably come from decades of experience, as he was talking about, you know, a few minutes ago.
Excuse me, on the other side of that, Mr. Mario, that was my greatest decision, was to marry my wife. So
I know, I'm joking.
She
Yeah,
must
I'm
be
in a
the
good
room
place
listening
now.
to him.
My partner now is good, right? So
It's
knock on
not the
wood.
marriage decision. It's
It's
who you're
amazing.
marrying that's the decision.
yes. Good point, Terry.
Yeah, that's true.
No, Mario made the decision, and then he corrected the course. You know.
There you go. There's always a good woman behind the guy, I guess, is the expression.
Yeah.
Is that that's Galter's secret, huh? Dorina, you can tell
definitely.
us.
You know, he puts me on PhD.
His level went up immediately, you know. Yeah.
He outkicked the coverage. Nice.
There you go.
She hit.
All right, guys, I'm gonna go because I got a little Zoom, but
I'm gonna
it
go
was
too.
a pleasure.
All right, guys.
Julie, invest in yourself, as Terry said. That's the best. You'll crush it. Never let anybody dictate it.
Julia, yeah, shoot me a text if you want to chat more. Alicia, thanks for joining. I know you were watching us on Facebook. I saw you. Thank you, everyone. I mean, have a good weekend, and help us get a hold of each other. Be friends. Have fun.
You too, Darina. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
See you next week,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks to everyone.
Yep. Bye.
Take care, guys.